Red Ray Gun Limited presents
The Benji and Nick Show.
Hello.
Good morning, good afternoon, or evening.
You seem to be quite preoccupied with what time of day it is, Benji.
Well, it doesn't matter because you're here now, and that's the main thing.
Yeah, whatever time. It can be any time of day.
You know, time is a man-made. It's a constructed.
It's a fiction.
Fiction. So, perhaps time doesn't exist. You're not listening to this at any time, just your own time. And if you are listening, we are Benji and Nick. I'm Benji, and this is Nick, and we're broadcasting from the cupboard underneath the stairs, I believe.
I'm in a shed, and you're in your rather swish studio.
I am indeed. It's rather lovely, nice and comfortable. How's the shed today?
Well, it's raining outside, and there's a lot of building work going on.
Oh, so good.
Anyway, as you probably know, folks, we chat about old TV shows, and our topic of the day is the BBC Day of the Triffids adaptation from
1981, I believe.
81. Wow.
Absolutely fantastic series.
Yeah. We'll be talking about that later. I'd have to say, Benji, I had it on DVD, but I wasn't in the same place as the DVD, so I just went and bought it on iTunes.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
For £5.99.
I think I've got it on DVD and iTunes as well, actually. I believe. I think
Very
I just bought it for a train
definition.
journey. It's one of those ones I can watch it a million times,
Well, me too. I thought I'd just watch a couple of episodes. Watched it all through.
Oh,
Straight through.
it's just smashing. It really is. I mean, I can't. Yeah. I've been looking forward to talking about this one because I love it so much, and there's plenty to talk about with this one.
So that's coming up.
Definitely.
And as you may remember, if you've listened before, but this is new information if you've never listened before. Hello, by the way, if you're new. It's nice to see you. Well, nice to sense that you might be listening to me long after this has been recorded. We are sponsored by the Gerry Anderson store. Gerry Anderson, the creator of such iconic TV series as Thunderbirds, Captain Scarlet, Joe 90, Stingray, Fireball XL5, UFO, Space 1999. There's just a random selection. Terrorhawks,
yeah.
All that stuff.
All that stuff.
Yes, and Jamie Anderson, Jerry's son, who runs the business, he's sponsoring us, so thank you very much. We have a new offer for you that the Gerry Anderson store is offering if you listen to this podcast, because you can get 10% off your entire order if you use the following code.
That's brilliant, isn't it? What a great what a great idea, Jamie.
It is. I'm embarrassed about the code. It was Jamie's suggestion because in our discussion about Thunderbirds the other week, where the scientist creates a chemical tincture that accidentally gets, and the idea this chemical thing makes animals grow bigger, and I said that it looked like poo water.
And in fairness to you, it certainly looks like poo water, doesn't it? It's a horrible, murky, nasty brown liquid there.
It's terrible. And then someone put something on Twitter with a bit of artwork with the guy holding it saying, "I've invented poo water."
Not a huge invention, really. I think it's been invented before.
Yeah, and so Jamie Anderson, who has the same puerile sense of humour as me, we spend far too much time together. I think that's the trouble. Suggested just moments ago when I texted him. I said, "Well, what is it going to be the same code?" No, he said, a new code. And we were trying to think about it. And he said, how about poo water? And I said, well, if you're happy with that. So if when you're checking out at the Gerry Anderson store, which we'll have a look at in a moment, you type in the promotional code poo water, that's POOWATER. If you type that in, you will get 10% off your entire order. I think that's a pretty good deal, actually.
I think it's worth it, isn't it? If you're gonna type in poo water, you get 10% off. I think that's a pretty damn good deal.
I'm so juvenile. Every time I say it, or you say it, or anyone says, or I read it, I just laugh.
Well, that's it.
And some people will not be laughing. I'm very sorry.
Yes, some people around the world will deliberately say, I'd rather pay the 10% than lower myself to the standards of Benji and Briggs. You disgusting swines.
Disgusting. Listen, have you looked up the store this week?
I haven't got the store up here. Yeah, the store's always up. Always looking.
What's the address again?
The address that you can find it is shop.jerryanderson.co.uk. And there's a huge range of stuff on offer. Pretty much everything that you can think of, actually. That's the beauty of it.
How about bananas? Are there any bananas?
Do you know what? Let's see. Is there a search bar? Banana. There might be. Do you know what? Here we go. Yeah. I typed in banana, and do you know what's come up? Torchy the Battery Boy Series 2 DVD.
Does he have a banana in it?
Well, I assume... Hold on. Yes, Banana Bridge is the name of an episode. So there we go. It even has bananas. Now, I'm not saying that it's got everything, but I'm saying it's got everything, really. Let's be honest here.
I mean, you're not saying it, and yet you're saying it.
Yeah, exactly. They've even got The Secret Service on DVD, which I'm quite keen, actually, to have to grab that,
I think. Great theme tune. Strange series.
I've got it. It's brilliant. It's out there. It's one of those. It's very out there in terms of the idea, but it's one of those great things. It's like, why not? Why not?
Who's the famous guy in it? I can't remember his name now.
Oh God!
He plays the vicar, who's a secret agent, and he's famous. He was famous for Stanley Unwin.
Stanley Unwin.
He's very kishly bold, and he talks rubbish, but you think you can understand him, and he's just adding funny things. He's very good, and that was his main technique as a Secret Service agent, which he could confuse the enemy by talking rubbish to them. I mean, I'm thinking of that scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark where the guy gets out the fancy sword and Indiana Jones just shoots him. I'm kind of thinking in real life that's what would have happened to the vicar. He starts talking rubbish rather than the enemy agent kind of going, oh, this is confusing me, just get a gun out and shoot him.
Well, that's the difference between reality and fiction, isn't it, really?
Right there.
It's like in that, have you ever seen the film the Parole Officer?
Yes.
With and he's there and he's trying to reason with the bouncers there, going, now you can have my card, the pin code, now it's the Battle of Hastings, and they just punch him in the face, just whack, and he falls off a roof. And I think, they don't take any of that, none of that mindless gibbering on.
That film was not the Secret Service.
That wasn't.
I liked the Parole Officer. Anyway, we're not discussing the Parole Officer. So, anything else on the?
Do you know? I'm looking through now, and there's a particularly glorious Haynes manual style Thunderbird 2 puzzle, actually, which looks really cool. It just caught my eye. I thought that looks really rather wonderful. There's loads. The thing is, there's loads of stuff. Like, I'm intrigued as well with all the amount of sort of model building things that you can get in here, and the kits, and there's absolutely everything, and to be honest, I think even if you've never watched any of the Gerry Anderson programs before, you could probably go into the store and pick something up. Just from looking at it, you see it and think, that actually looks quite like something I'd like to check out. So it's well worth a look. Definitely.
And don't forget 10% off your entire order. I actually typed 10% of your entire order, but I meant 10% off.
You're a mug, you'll only get the handle.
Poo water is the code. Any particular Gerry Anderson memories today?
Not so much a memory, but a thought. And I've been planning to bring this up because I know that you've been to them before. But there's the Gerry Anderson Andercon events, aren't there? And I saw a few photos of those on Twitter, and I have to say it looks absolutely fantastic. Is there a huge sort of display of models and marionettes? Yeah, really, it looks really good.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Would you recommend going to one?
Another one? Are they doing another one though?
I don't know. I do not know. I just saw it. It sort of popped up, and I wondered if they're doing another one.
Because that's when we did the sort of Terrorhawks launch there for the big finish.
Stay on this channel.
Stay on this channel. That wasn't like the voice at all. Sorry.
No, it's definitely something I'd like to check out. And if you like those sort of thing, if you go onto YouTube and Google Andacon, you can see loads of the little marionettes now.
Yeah.
So rather fun.
I'm going to watch UFO again soon.
Oh, very nice.
If we did it for this podcast, we'd have to choose a particular episode. I think we couldn't just do the entire series, could we?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go, because it's otherwise it's very broad. We can kind of focus in on things. The UFO is definitely something we need to do, undoubtedly. So, indubitably.
Undoubtedly. Good. Well, there you are. That was our little Jerry Anderson moment, and coming up, the day of the Triffids on BBC One. But first, some emails. Shall I do the first one?
Yeah, you can do the first one. I'll do. Yeah, we'll go in that order. It's a nice order, isn't it?
Is that right?
Yeah.
So this is from Aniran Hunt. Subject line: suggestions for topic. To Nick and Benji, I have some suggestions for topics. I thought you might. Fireball XL5 is one. It is the only Jerry Anderson show I have seen all of. The only other things I've seen is some, but not much, of Thunderbirds. I remember watching Fireball XL5 on DVD as a kid. Oh, you had a DVD when you were a kid. DVDs weren't invented when I was a kid. I remember Faster Than Light being my favourite episode. Other things I remember are the episode where they went to a planet of giants struggling to make rockets. The one where the Earth froze. There is the spinning control station on Earth, and the episode set in the past that was like a western. Wow. Well, I've got Fireball XL5. I must rewatch it all. I think I saw it all as a kid, but that was in the last century. I also remember I'm not even joking. I also remember thinking that they had it easier on Fireball XL5 since they had a robot co-pilot.
It does help, doesn't it?
Yes.
I think
Good
it does
point,
help.
Aaron, yeah. There's also The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Could be a little complicated to do in one episode due to the multiple versions. Yeah, Blackadder is one I'd like to see. Maybe something more modern as a change once in a while. God, I don't know whether we can do modern. Also, I'm surprised that The Prisoner has not come up yet. Well, it's come up. We've mentioned it.
We have to do The Prisoner. All of those are really good suggestions, especially with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I think it's fair to say, for me, the quintessential version of that one is the BBC television version. That's just ticks.
Really? That is totally controversial.
Ticks my boxes. Love it.
Wow. To me, it was an imposter because, I knew the radio series inside out, and I had high hopes for the TV series, and I just felt that the level of technology available to the BBC at the time wasn't delivering on that. But maybe it deserves a rewatch at some point. And controversially, I didn't mind that last movie. I mean, I think I had quite a few issues with it, but I thought it had a nice energy to it.
I think it was good fun. And I think with a film, what you want, good fun. It's never. The thing is you have to think that these films are introducing The Hitchhiker's Guide to a new audience, and I think that actually does a very good job at doing that. Quite frankly, it's good fun, especially musical acts as well. Musical numbers in there as well. Bit of fun, bit of a giggle. I like it.
So long and thanks for all the fish. There are lots of interesting suggestions in that email, and I want to reveal at this point in the podcast that I have no idea what we're going to choose for next week.
No.
I think the week before last, I had it sewn up, didn't I? Because I absolutely knew it was going to be time slip. Anyway, on to the next email.
Okay, so this one's from Marianne Kenny. Subject line: teeny tiny podcast request. Oh, we like a request. Hello, teeny tiny. Hello, Benji and Nick. Love the podcast, especially the slightly more relaxed feel of it compared to the BF one, which I also love. BF there meaning Big Finish. One little thing. At the very end, when Nick says, "I'm pressing the stop button now," I expect to hear a ka-chunk sound as an old style cassette tape recorder. Instead, dead silence. Well, do you know what I have got a ka-chung sound which I could probably send to Nick.
Oh yeah,
a nice little spring-loaded button.
I mean, the funny thing about it, Marianne, is that I am literally pressing stop, and when that happens, there is no noise because it cuts off the recording.
Yeah, I suppose you wouldn't. Maybe you would hear like the as opposed to the
Sometimes,
ka-chung. You wouldn't hear the chung.
No, but we ought to put. You've got to send me that ka-chung, and I'll put it on the end.
Love a spring-loaded button. Love them. So continue the email here. It says, it leaves me with a vaguely uneasy feeling, like the missing note at the end of the Beatles' Her Majesty. Yeah, I dig you on that
just
one.
Like that.
Yeah. Or when there's an opening parenthesis without an associated closing one. So, seeing as how you both are sound wizards, well, I'd like to think we're both sound guys, would it be possible to add a stop button ka-chung sound effect at the end? Well, we'll certainly see what we can do. I think it's tingled our molecules, certainly. Thank you, Marion Kenny, Massachusetts, USA. Sent from my other phone. I like that. I like the other. I'll send it from that one today. Why not?
Well, I think, Marianne, you gather from what we were saying before we got to the end of your email that, yes, Benji will send me the ka-chunk.
Ka-chung.
Ka-chunk. From Nick Ferraza, this one, who's often written to the Big Finish podcast. Subject line, the mole strikes back. That's sort of like going into the garden.
Dig it.
A mole.
That mole.
Like a mole.
That mole struck back again. It's ruined me geraniums all over the grass. Oh dear.
It sort of comes flying at you like that that rabbit in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. What do they call that rabbit?
Is it the rabbit of death or something? I
don't know.
It is a rabbit. Well, what is it? Look at its fangs. It has got a name, hasn't it?
Yes.
I should know. I watched the film the other day.
Hi, Benji and Nick. Oh, go on. What is it?
The rabbit, the killer rabbit of Caer Banog. It is a rabbit. Love it.
Hi, Benji and Nick. In regards to your recent discussion about the possible existence of a Thunderbird's mole figure, I just wanted to confirm that it does indeed exist. How do I know? Because I own it, and it's brilliant. Like you two, I think the mole might just be my favourite Thunderbird 2's pod deployers. Oh, I say. But Thunderbird 4's nice too. I've got that one as well.
Rock and roll.
I grew up in the 90s when Thunderbirds had its massive resurgence. It's always nice to have a massive resurgence, isn't it? It's a massive resurgence. And along the way, gathered a large set of Thunderbirds and even a Tracy Island, all of which I still own. I never got a Thunderbird 5 though. No, me neither. But it's because it doesn't do anything. It just sits there in orbit, doesn't it? I mean, it's vital to the operation. I'm not dissing Thunderbird 5. Perhaps I'll have to rectify that by consulting a certain online store and destroy. Well, it's poo water now.
Yeah, it's
Nick.
poo
water. 10% off. Bargain. Loving the podcast. Keep up the great work. Cheers, Nick Ferraza. Sent from the car wash that had to stay open all night just to clear the mole's drill.
Poor car washers.
We did talk last week about how, Benji theorised a situation in which the mole turned up to a car wash that was about to close.
Just the worst thing to see, isn't it? Yeah. Just the worst thing. It was funny, my mind went back to an almost childlike state there when you said about the Tracy Island playset and that you didn't have a Thunderbird 5. My first thought was, yeah, and I could hang the Thunderbird 5 like from the ceiling above the Tracy, and then I could be like, look up and it'd be like, there it is. And then I realised that I'm a 26-year-old man and I no longer play with toys.
Man-child,
mild. I'm very mild. So that was the emails for this week. Thanks to everybody that has emailed in.
By the way, did you notice that, because you stayed at my flat once, didn't you?
I did indeed, yes.
And you stayed in Ben's room. And did you notice that there was a Tracy Island?
Of course I noticed. Yeah, there's a great selection of Thunderbird stuff and Doctor Who stuff as well. It's just a sort of great place to hang out and chill.
The Doctor Who stuff's mine. Time now, I think, to talk about the Day of the Triffids.
Before we do that, though, Nick, if people want to email in, we better give them the email address, otherwise it'll be a very quiet podcast next week. This one from Silence. Every time. Thanks for emailing. Yes, if you want to contact us, it's podcast@nicholasbriggs. Is it .com or .co.uk?
.com.
So it's podcast@nicholasbriggs.
Nicholas Bricks. Bricks without knickers.
Podcast at nicholasbriggs.com. There we go. So
it's
you can email
things that are difficult.
Imagine. All right, this poor bloke called Nicholas Bricks, who's just a bricklayer, just gets all these stupid emails about poo water coming his way. What's all this?
I used to be called Bricks and Nicholas at school.
My
name was hilarious, apparently. It was a source of constant amusement.
Well, I had a happy life until Clifford the Big Red Dog was invented, and then it all just went...
Well, Clifford the Big Red Dog, mate, was invented when I was a kid.
Yeah, well...
I read that book when I was about 6.
It became a television series, though, and of course then it reached, now...
Clifford hit the big time.
Now if I go to a... well, I don't know where... places where you have to say your name. I'm trying to think of an example. I want to say like a bar
say
or
your
something.
name place.
But often I just say, yeah, it's Clifford, like the Big Red Dog. Guaranteed chuckle every time. Every time, guaranteed.
Well, what you've done, you've hung a lantern on it there. That's what you've done.
Yeah, dress it up. Keep them on side. That's what I always say. I never say that. Anyway, moving on swiftly. I suppose we better talk about the Day of the Triffids now.
Yeah, which you really absolutely seized upon as a suggestion. You suggested it, didn't you, last week?
I love this television series. It's one of those ones, if my friends haven't seen it, as friends that like watching this sort of thing, I will always force them to watch it. It's just part of what I do. And I love it to bits. I think it's a brilliant series. It's perfect, in my view.
We should explain for anyone who doesn't know what the Day of the Triffids is. I guess there may be someone out there. It's a very famous novel written in the 1960s, I believe.
I believe so.
By John Wyndham. And it is about what would happen if mankind lost its dominant place in the pecking order on the planet. And the circumstances through which this happened in this book is that there is what is apparently... a comet's tail appears in the sky one night, and the people of all of the planet watch this display. And the next morning they wake up blind and helpless because something in that alleged comet has burnt out their retinas. But of course, there would inevitably be a very small percentage of the population who did not see it. And they are the only sighted ones left. But also, concurrently, there's another plot strand where mankind has been... there's a sort of mystery genetically engineered plant that's been used to harvest oil from. But the trouble is with this extraordinary plant, it has a very dangerous sting. And the plants, if left untended, can move and walk around. So, with everyone blind and society crumbling, suddenly the Triffids have the upper hand because they kill people and then wait for them to decompose and then eat them.
They walk and sort of just
the
pop on top of them, don't they?
That's right. That's why it's called Day of the Triffids. It's a phenomenally successful, iconic, pivotal science fiction novel by a brilliant writer, very British writer, John Wyndham. His style, very distinctive.
I love the book actually, as well as I remember reading the book at school, and I've just looked up when the book was. It's 1951 actually.
Oh, 51.
I thought it might be because I remember there was that
50s stuck in my mind.
There was the 50s film I seem to recall of it. I think which made me wonder.
It's the film the 50s one, which is quite a dreadful movie, isn't it? With Howard Keel in the lead.
Yeah, with Howard Keel. It's also got Carol Ann Ford in it as well, playing a blind lady.
Yes, that's true.
The film was 1962.
Maybe that's where I was thinking. Yeah.
But I always remember with the book that the opening line is really good in it.
And it's a day that you think is Sunday turns out to be Wednesday. Is it something like that?
When a day that you happen to know is Wednesday starts off sounding like a Sunday, then there's something seriously wrong somewhere. It's like,
it's one of the best opening lines of a book ever.
Such a hook. Gets you straight away and you're in there.
Because the main character, Bill Mason, is in hospital because he works on a Triffid farm and he's been stung by a Triffid, and some of the poison... He was wearing a mask at the time, but some of the poison got in and has caused him severe eyesight trouble. And he is blindfolded and waiting for his dressings to be taken off. But he wakes up in the morning, and of course, there's no activity in the hospital because everyone's blind.
It's a truly fantastic concept, really, and the television series really pulls that off straight from the word go. I mean, to be fair, when I was growing up and I first got into this show, I had a VHS recording of it, and I always used to skip forward past the first episode and start at the second episode, because that's the first episode explains the situation, and then the second episode is where it all kicks off. But it starts in that hospital, and I mean, to be honest, when it comes to this television program, I think it's some of the most unnerving television I've ever seen. And I think for an audience in 1981 to be sitting there watching this show, I think it's unlike anything I've seen before it, really, for that level of utter it's cold and it's incredibly frightening.
I think it's a really interesting production. I have to say that when I first saw it, I was a bit younger than you are now, and I wasn't entirely approving of it, because I felt that it was I don't know, I thought it, to me at the time, I would jump ahead and say I really loved watching it again, and really this is the best experience I've had watching it. But I was always a little bit down on it because it seemed a little bit typically BBC, old-fashioned-y sort of production. But it's an odd format, isn't it? It's 6 half-hour episodes.
Yeah.
Now that's odd that they made a major drama series and they made it as 6 half hours. I can't conceive of that happening now.
And it didn't
happen that often in the 80s either, so that's odd.
Well, it's a bit of a standalone series in itself, isn't it, as well? It's one of those things, I don't quite know how it came to be, but it sort of did, and it's his own thing, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I sort of mean by saying that?
Yes,
yeah.
Definitely, yeah. Does anyone else, though? Write in and let us know. Let's talk about John Dutein playing Bill Mason. Is brilliant. He's
great in it, isn't he? One of those characters, and the way he plays it as well is you completely trust him. But he's no superhero. He's just a man, and I like that. You trust him because he's got experience with Triffids, but he's still a person.
Yeah, you trust him also because he's got a beard.
He's got a very good beard.
But actually, in 1981, that wasn't such that. Beards are very, very trendy now. And the two of us have got beards, so it's very trendy. But beards have become more of a thing now than they. But back in those days, beards weren't as common, and so it's interesting that they chose to have him with a beard. But of course, he'd been, unable to shave for a long time with the bandages on, so that's probably the reason for that. And I would like to say. Bill Mason's beard is quite a star of this for me, because there's a distinct difference between Bill Mason's beard in the film sequences and Bill Mason's beard in the videotaped studio sequences. There's a sort of leap of beardness where it starts off really quite a modest beard, and then suddenly it becomes very full-bodied very quickly over a short space of time. That's a bit trivial, but I think John Dutein is brilliant, and we worked with him at Big Finish. Actually, he did come in and do a Doctor Who story for us, and he was brilliant to work with. Lovely guy. Had a real simmering power to his performance,
which he has in this actually as well.
Yeah, and he's a great everyman in this. Now, controversially, I think that the girl who plays the female lead, I remember really not liking her at the time.
Is it Emma Ralph, I think it is.
I don't know. Did she ever do anything else?
Yeah, she went on. She did The Professionals.
Right. That doesn't really count as acting, though, does it?
She did The Witches, the Eureka. I remember Eureka. No, she didn't do. I think she does. I looked her up the other day, and I think she does. She's now. She could star in the new rebooted version of Zodiac, because she's now an astrologer, and she's a yoga expert and a professional astrologer.
Well, I have to say, watching it again, I think she's very authentic. As basically, she's a very, very posh lady, but I remember finding her quite fake.
I think she's one of those ones. Once you take into the account that she is a very posh lady, and that, I mean, she's got that scene. I think it's in the second episode, or it might even be the third, where her daddy gets killed by a Triffid. And
well, yeah, that's when he first meets her.
That's when he first meets her, and so you see that background there, and quickly she kind of has to adapt to the new world. I like her. I think she is good, and I think they're an interesting match.
It makes me want to read the book again because I'm not sure the character was quite the same in the book.
Do you know what? That wasn't exactly what I was thinking, but I certainly want to dip back into the book to see how close it is, because the book has a lot about a character called Torrance, who is the big baddie in it, whereas Torrance only appears.
He just turns up at the end, although there is a bit with him earlier
as a punk.
Now, here's a controversial thing. Who plays Torrance in this?
So Torrance in this particular adaptation is played by Gary Olsen.
Gary Olsen, who became a major star on BBC television as the dad in a hugely successful sitcom called, was it 2.4 Children? Probably not on your radar, but I can't
not on my
tell
radar,
you
but I'm looking now.
How massively popular it was. It had Claire Buckfield in it, I believe, who's worked with us a lot. And it was just huge, and he was massive because of it. I think I'm right in saying, are you looking him up?
Yeah. He was in Gimme Gimme Gimme. 2.4 Children, yeah.
Yeah. And what does it say? I think he sadly is now dead. I think he died at quite an early age.
Yes, he died in 2000.
Yeah, and he was, too young to die.
42, yeah, wow.
Yeah, there you go. Very sad. And I am told, and I'm not quite sure the source of this, so forgive me if I'm wrong, and I know I mentioned this in a previous podcast, I'm told that because back in the days when, back in these days of television, your contract gave you the option to block. You had to give permission for the program you were in to be released on home entertainment, and he blocked it, which is why it didn't get released for quite some time. And he blocked it, it is believed, because he was not happy with his performance. And watching it, I agree with him. It's not terrible, but it is fairly ill-judged, I think. You can see him trying too hard. It's not a comfortable performance. Do you think I'm being too harsh?
No, I think I'm with you on that one. I mean, the
when
one
he's
thing,
playing drunk and everything, he doesn't quite do it very well. It's like he learnt a lot after this.
Yeah, I think there was always that thing. What was it? There was that line in it about he says, "I don't want to drink all your best." He went, "No, I liberated it this morning, and I'll go and liberate some more." And I don't know why I quoted that. I just remember that line in it. But the one thing I would say about his role in this is that because he plays two parts in this in the Day of the Triffids, he plays.
No, it's the same man.
Is it the same? Is it the same man?
It's meant to be the same man. That's the point.
That is a point. But the reason I'm saying this is because
he sees because Bill Mason spots this psychopath just willy-nilly executing people, and then he turns up later as an army officer. So he thinks, "Oh my God, it's him. That man who's a murderer. We got to treat this guy with kid gloves."
The reason I'm saying this is because on Gary Olsen's page, it says here that he was credited as Red-Haired Man, a street gang leader, and then later on as Torrance, an armed parliamentary officer. So the actual credits, the way the credits work, it suggests that it's two different people, but it must be the same. And there's a little thing that I noticed in this, which actually, I don't know if it was intentional or just the way he does it, but the last thing you see of, I think it's when the Triffids arrive or whatever, Torrance takes his gun and moves it down in an aiming, the same style as when he was the punk earlier on. Exactly the same in the way he aims down this gun. And I reckon that must be a nod that it's the same character in there as well, like a deliberate nod.
Yes, I don't think there's any mystery. I think it's absolutely intended to be the main character, because the idea is that
he's a thug.
Everything seems to be going so well, and then he turns up. He's a thug dressed up as someone important, and you can see Bill Mason clocks him immediately.
He knows,
there's a moment. Absolutely. And it is, yes, and interestingly, Night of the Triffids, the sequel book, is the character of Torrance is extremely important and is the main villain.
He's
of
the big guy,
yeah. So
Torrance was also played by Eddie Izzard in the latest one, wasn't he, as well? In the TV adaptation.
Oh,
of
was he?
Triffids,
The latest TV adaptation,
which is quite good.
Was it? I don't remember liking it.
I thought the only thing I thought about it was that it seems
it has Dougray Scott in it, doesn't it?
Yes, I felt like it seemed like they were just continuing the modern adaptation of Survivors. It just felt like the same thing, like, even down to like going to warehouses and stuff like that. It just looked the same and felt the same. But yeah. Anyway, carry on.
It is part of the plot. It is part of the plot. So they have to do what's in the story, don't they? Yes, I remember the other thing. I'm going to say two more harsh things, while still emphasising that I did love it. I really did. Found it really involving. I mean, to watch 6.5 hours almost in one sitting, you have to love it, and it's beautifully done in so many ways. We'll talk about the music in a minute. I remember at the time when it was first on, I was quite harsh about the Triffids themselves. I just didn't find them convincing at all, but I thought they were really blooming good.
Brilliant. I love the old Triffids. I remember they used to be on display at the Natural History Museum, and you could see the original Triffid props there.
Yes. Maurice Colburn playing...
He played Jack Coker.
Jack Coker, that's
Maurice
right.
Colburn, if you're a fan of Doctor Who, played Commander Lytton. He's brilliant in it. I love everything he's in. I think he's one of my favourites.
Well, this is my controversial thing. If you look at it, he has, very handsome man, very deliberate way of doing everything. But, do you know, for me, his performance wasn't quite sophisticated enough. It's just that way he speaks all the time. You know, I'm going to get in my lorry and drive, and I just say everything like this. And so, it's awful that poor fellow's died many years ago and had a great career and was very famous for Howard's Way.
Howard's Way, yeah.
The Sunday evening soap opera.
Fun soap, yeah.
And which I couldn't bear. And... like all right-thinking people, I would suggest. But I just, he doesn't quite do it for me. So it's interesting. My problems with this are with the acting. But watching it again, I loved it. The music by Christopher Gunning, isn't it?
Yeah, that's correct. Music. Fantastic
it's
music.
It's really lovely score. It's. I mean, he makes a great choice, him and the director, I presume, that it's quite uplifting, the score, isn't it? It's
uplifting, and it's very bare bones, I think, as well. There's not a lot to it in terms of instruments. It's just a piano, vibraphones, and a few other little bits like xylophones and marimba. Yeah. There's not a lot else to it, but it works so well in its favour.
It wasn't common for British TV series to have incidental music in those days. Still, Doctor Who was quite unique in its use of music. And for a drama of this level to have a full score was quite unusual. And there wasn't enough money to have a big orchestra. You know, now they all hire the BBC Philharmonic Orchestra or whatever it's called and get on with it. Or they go over, to Eastern Europe and get a cheaper orchestra over there and spend a day with them and rushing around quickly getting them to do the whole score in a day. But yeah, this is very much a sort of homegrown limited instrumentation score, and I think it's beautiful. I can hear it in my head now as I absolutely.
In fact, we can slot this in if you like. If we can, I did because it's not released commercially. I did a little recreation of some incidental music from Day of the Triffids, which we could slot in as an example of how it sounds.
Yeah, let's do that.
But I'd love to hear the score released commercially. I would absolutely love it. Just like the changes, I never thought I'd see that released commercially, and here we are. We get to listen to Paddy Kingsland's sitar as much as we like. So for Day of the Triffids, I think that score deserves a release, because actually I think it's really ahead of its time and is instrumental. Yeah, a little pun. Instrumental in
He's so funny.
But it very much is the glue. It completely holds this drama together and gives you a feeling of unease and horror. It's fantastic.
The standout performance is John Turturro as Bill Mason. He really, he is the everyman character who...
He rocks the aviators as well in that first episode.
Pardon?
He rocks the aviators. He wears brilliant... He wears these really great sunglasses in that opening. He leaves hospital.
I didn't know what you meant. They're called aviators.
Aviator glasses. Yeah,
he rocks the aviators.
He just comes out. He comes out of hospital with these great sunglasses on, and he's like, "Yep." And they only last for that opening for when he leaves the hospital, but it makes him look like a real 80s king of the 80s. And then he just wears that coat for the rest of it, that sort of skiing jacket.
His beard and hair does get outrageously long, and one can see the where it's stuck on.
Yeah, well, yes, quite. I mean, in the final episode, certainly. Yeah, for quite. But I often think to myself, does it leave itself open? Were there plans for it to branch out into another series? Because it ends very much. It sort of ends on that. Where will we go from here? Yeah.
Well, that's how the book ends.
Fair enough, yeah.
And also you see how the TV series ends. It's bizarre because they don't do any of those end of series type things where you maybe pull back to a wide shot, and he just literally says, well, come on, Isle of Wight it is, or whatever, and he releases the handbrake, and it's a close shot of him from behind him as well, so you don't even really see his face, and then they just cut to the closing credits, and it's just so abrupt. But it also highlights the problem with the novel, which isn't a problem as a novel, and same with War of the Worlds, is that these books, these two very significant books, War of the Worlds and The Day of the Triffids, they do have a sensational, action-packed aspect to them, but they are philosophical works. They beg the question, how would you deal with this?
Yeah.
What if all your certainties were overturned? What are human beings and what do they need to survive? All those things. That's what these books are about. And the trouble is, when you turn them into TV productions and films and audio adaptations, dare I say it, yes, The Martian Invasion of Earth, available from bigfinish.com. The endings are difficult. The endings make sense in the books, but they don't make sense as drama. The kind of let's go to the Isle of Wight ending is not, it doesn't seem... If you tell the story visually on screen and then you end it like that, you just... I think that an adaptation... There's a hint that the comet's tail is not a comet's tail at all and is a weapon, some sort of weapon in orbit that explodes by accident, that was designed to be used to pinpoint small areas on Earth and blind people, but it accidentally
blinds everybody.
And I think that there's something like that. Maybe a broader adaptation that gets to the core of it as a more action-packed story would have something more about finding that out.
Yes,
but
a bit similar to
it's still very much in copyright, so any adaptation like that could not happen.
It's a shame. It's a big shame. I mean, it's a bit like that sort of great moment at the end of the Planet of the Apes, where he sees the Empire State, not the Empire, the Statue of Liberty, and he says, so they did it. They actually did it.
Well, that's an amazing end to that film, and interestingly, it's not in the book that the film's based on. And that's my point. The books have endings that are right for a book.
You can't,
a movie, a TV series, they're an entirely different animal, and you kind of really need to, I mean, I made several changes to the ending of War of the Worlds for my adaptation, but I won't spoil that. But
worth a listen, though.
The essential ending is still there, but it builds up to it in a different way. And I think that I can't remember how the later BBC adaptation with Dougray Scott, how that ends. Do you?
I remember there's a big shootout at a house, and I can't remember much after that. I know that, I can't remember what note it ends on. No, I can't at all. Actually, that's really bad, isn't it?
D flat.
D flat.
Interestingly, that version is not available to buy on iTunes.
I've got it on DVD actually, but I wonder why that. There's bound to be some rights. The original film, I quite like though. I think they're all good in their own way. They're all very different. The film, the series, and the new version. You can watch any one of them and take something away from it, I think.
The film, of course, is absolutely ludicrous because they destroy them by squirting water at them.
Yeah, well, that is ridiculous, isn't it?
They find that the Triffids can't survive. I think it's salt water they don't like, or something.
Which is ridiculous, given the fact that a lot of it is set in a lighthouse in the middle of surrounded by water.
They've nicked that from the Kraken Wakes, haven't they?
I'm sure.
It's just. But again, you see, they were searching for a dramatic resolution. They must have thought, hey, we can't finish this movie without destroying the Triffids. Which is not what happens in the book. They just say, no, life has changed.
And that's better, and things like that. That is the essence of a post-apocalyptic thing. Is there's it really rides on the fact that there's no turning back now. This is what these are your cards, and from now on, this is how you must go forward. I think, that's the way it should be, and I think you can only end on those notes, really. For me, anyway. I think it'd be a bit rubbish if suddenly everybody said, and then the blindness wore off, and they just locked all the Triffids up again, and it was fine. And
I got better.
Turned me into a newt. But so I think really that's a good way, talking of endings. It's a good way to kind of end our discussion on Day of the Triffids, really. So
yes, we absolutely let us know what you think. Yeah, as well. Have a look at it, folks. And write into podcast@nicholasbriggs.com. Let us know. Right, time now for the result of the competition we've been running. The prize was the soundtrack of the new Captain Scarlet, signed by composer Crispin Merrill. The question was, in the new Captain Scarlet series, which character had changed gender from their representation in the original Captain Scarlet and the Mistron series? The answer is Lieutenant Green. Is it Lieutenant or Lieutenant, did they say? I can't remember which they said.
It says on the bit of paper here, Lieutenant Green.
No, but it's spelt the same, you buffoon.
Well, don't ask me, because I'm just a fool.
Yes, it's spelt Lieutenant, but in English it's pronounced Lieutenant.
Yes.
Anyway, the winner is Duncan Wilson, who says, Lieutenant Green, loving the new podcast, BTW, by the way.
Danke.
Best wishes, Duncan. Get Outlook for Android. No, I don't want to.
Not today.
But thank you, Duncan. I will be contacting the Jerry Anderson store, and they will be sending you that new Captain Scarlet soundtrack. Benji, tell us about the new competition.
So the new competition is to win Captain Scarlet Blu-ray Volumes 1 and 2, which is brand new, isn't it? They've just been released, I believe.
Is that correct? Yeah.
I think they're pretty new, but whether they're new or not, you get a chance of getting them. And here is the question.
Yeah, it's Captain Scarlet and the Mistrons, I should say.
Yes, the original Jerry Anderson version of it.
Supermarionation.
So the question is, there's Harmony, Melody, Symphony, and Destiny Angel. But which angel is missing from that list? I'll say them again. Harmony, Melody, Symphony, and Destiny Angel. Now, there's one which isn't in there. So if you know what the answer might be, then send us an email with the subject line Angel Delight. And you can send that to the email address podcast@nicholasbriggs.com. And the closing date for that one is Friday, the 11th of May. So rock and roll, get on it, folks.
Good luck. So, it just says here, choose the next topic.
What are you feeling? What are you feeling, Nick?
Well, we could do an episode of The Prisoner.
We could. Do you know what? That's a great idea, actually. You could, and seeing as you are the prisoner guy, which episode would you like us to cover?
Well, it's interesting. I just wanted to mention that yesterday I was a guest on a Celebrity Pointless, which is filmed at Elstree Studios. And whilst walking back to the car with India Fisher, who big Finnish fans will know, and one of the runners from the production, I said, it's funny enough, I came here recently to a sort of a prisoner event. And of course, this young person had no idea about a series called The Prisoner, so she naturally assumed that I was someone who had been in prison.
Oh, great!
And was coming, and I saw her look alarmed, and India immediately leapt to I said, "No, he means a television series. He's not like a jailbird or something." So this is, I went to a prisoner event, where we all pick each other's pockets. I'm making terribly ill-advised remarks. Anyway, so we should pick an episode, shouldn't we?
What's a favourite of yours?
Goodness me!
I mean, what a question! That's like saying to somebody, "Would you like a gin and tonic or a vodka and tonic?"
Well, no, I'd have to choose. Let's do the Chimes of Big Ben.
Like it. What a legendary one. Legendary. Okay,
that's
then.
What we're going to do.
So next time we are going to be delving into The Prisoner. The Chimes of Big Ben.
I'm not a number, I'm a free man.
So good. Wow. So good.
Time to talk like this, I think.
Indeed. It's time to get close to the microphone as we bid you a fantastic farewell. And we'll be seeing you next week.
Be seeing you. Pressing stop now. Ka-chung.